Tonight I want to talk about something sad. I want to talk about fate or ward. Destiny, man. Sometimes your fate here on earth is not meant to be glorious and wonderful. Sometimes God leads you through the hard paths, and He does it on purpose. You know, there's a lot of things that God wanted fulfilled in His life that never actually happened. You know, Christ's mission was the cross, and suffering and death is not a life that particularly looks like blessing. And so, you know, there's times in my life where I felt like I've fought against the world, and I've tried to do the right thing, and I've tried to be blessed in things that would make me happy, but, you know, it's just not meant to be. That's tough. It's really tough, having to go through those emotions and feel the weight of pain where there should be joy, and you know, various things. And so yeah, you know, I'm just meditating on the meaning of suffering and why it seems that our fate sometimes is a path that is full of suffering. You know, I could mention various things that I've gone through, and you know, I think about Jesus, and it's like He understands everything that I've gone through perfectly, and He purposed it. You know, I was talking with a coworker at work today about how like God allows evil, because if He didn't allow evil, there would be no struggle. And the fact that I struggle so much, the fact that, you know, I've been through so much longing and suffering and waiting and lack of fulfillment is because of the struggle of good and evil in this world. And, you know, Christ is waiting too. I mean, He doesn't have everything that was promised to Him yet. God is making Jesus wait as well. And, you know, it's just an interesting thing. Like, I have to, you know, forgive myself for thinking that God is sometimes cruel, or that He's a cruel parent. You know, the cross looks like cruelty in many regards, and, you know, God is not cruel. Though He willed that for Jesus, it was for our salvation and for our good and for Christ's good as well. And so, you know, when you feel like the things that you're going through in this life, and the trials and tribulations and the sufferings and the seemingly like just feeling like fate is against you, just remember that God loves you. And just because you can't see it right now doesn't mean that God doesn't have a purpose for your suffering. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. And, you know, dealing with other various things, trying to understand why I've been on the path that I've been on. Like, I know I've found love in God, but finding love in this world is very, very hard. And I don't know if I'll ever find it, to be honest with you. It's a reality that I've had to face, and it's a very like more sorrowful reality to think that I may never find, you know, a woman who loves God the way that I love God and fears God the way that I fear God. And yeah, you know, like, Jesus will eventually He'll redeem the bride of Christ, the church. The church will truly fear Him and submit to Him as, you know, He humbles Himself, and yeah, He's gonna command obedience out of the church. And it's not going to be this feminist rule where women rule over men and make decisions over men and all these things. And yeah, I don't know. I've dealt with a lot of rejection from a lot of various women in my life, which has really been a struggle for me. It's like, why? What is it that I've done? Like, you know, I'm not saying that I'm like the greatest looking guy, but it's just like, I feel like the women that I've pursued are not like out of my class, and yet, you know, they're just unwilling to submit to me, and it just sucks, dude. It's like I'm too religious for them, or I'm too zealous, or I'm like that Christian guy that's like too much, you know, and it's just a real bummer, you know, like being totally vulnerable and honest with y'all. So yeah, that's what I've been going through tonight, and just trying to understand what my destiny is. if I'm just meant to be single and just following Jesus and telling people about the good news. Like, I'm trying to refrain from bitterness. I've been praying through that and talking about that with my friends. People have been praying for me about it. Like, the things that I've struggled with my stepmom and my dad, serving him faithfully and basically getting no inheritance, and, like her trying to keep that a secret. I mean, it's awful. Like, the love of money is a terrible thing. And, if I would have been blessed with a lot of money from my dad's passing, that may have changed me for the worse. And maybe God just wants me where I'm at, doing the things I'm doing for the sake of the gospel and for the kingdom. I'm only 32, and like, Jesus wasn't focused on finding a wife. He was focused on creating disciples that were like him to further his ministry and to further the message that he came to this earth to give. And eventually he will come back. He was 33 when he died. And I mean, 33 is kind of like the prime of your life still. So I'm like a year away from that. And like, the goal of my life is not to find a wife, even though I've wanted that ever since before I started following Jesus, which is why I think it's just so weird that hasn't happened for me yet. And, God doesn't want to be cruel. He doesn't want to just be like, oh, no, you don't get one. But I don't know. That's the thing. It's just like, I can't foresee the future. And the older I get, the more I feel like it's not going to happen. And it's like, the big test right now in my life is like, even if that doesn't happen, Alexander, will you still follow me? Will you still pick up your cross, and will you still count it all joy? Will you still, you know what I mean? Like, a not fake smile, but like, truly count it all joy to follow Christ and forsake everything else. He who gives up wife and children for the sake of the kingdom of heaven will have, far greater things in the kingdom, which, I know that to be true, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, maybe it's a selfish desire, the things I've wanted, but it just seems like it's totally like not like God. I mean, to live a life that's, celibate and sold out for the gospel is great, and it can do a lot of great things for the kingdom, but it's like also procreating and like having sons and daughters and like a loving wife, like that furthers the kingdom as well. And yeah, it seems like God and I, sometimes we kind of just have like these frustrating talks where it's like, why did this happen? And I know I've got sin too that it needs to be dealt with, and some of the blessings may have been blocked or hindered because of my sins. That might be a reality that I have to face. But yeah, it's really difficult to see the purpose of your suffering when you're going through it sometimes. So all that said, hopefully that's a comfort to you, and hopefully you kind of reason within yourself what's going on. And yeah, like, people that are married and have children, like, they have their own struggles. It's not like that's a life without struggle. It definitely has a lot of duties involved with it, and a lot of sacrifice involved with it. So yeah, maybe God's sparing me, like, because there aren't very many wise women that actually, like, would sync up with my heart for God and my mind for the Lord. And so, who knows? Only God. But yeah, that's what I'm going through. Those are the emotions I'm feeling tonight. And hopefully that comforts you. And, I might upload this to my Christian counseling section on my playlist. So, thanks for listening. Peace, and may Jesus bless you.